Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of movie news. Like always, this is the last week before CINEMACON starts, and so we're going to get into a bunch of different topics. A couple of things that we're going to be talking about today is going to be Avengers Doomsday and the casting that was announced. Other things like the first Minecraft reviews are out. Legends of Zelda, Daredevil Born Again, and so much more. So hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the CINEMACON stuff that is coming out this next week. And I'm going to give you more information on what CINEMACON actually is, the schedule that you can look at for that, and see what's coming up, and so much more news, as well as even Jumanji, Avatar: The Last Airbender, again, so much more. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into it right now. Alright, like I said, today we're going to be talking about CINEMACON and the release schedule, but before we get there, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, as well as leave a comment down below just about any movie news topic that you want me to talk about. I love talking about movie news, and I would love to talk about it with you guys, so please go ahead and list the comments below. But with that, let's get into the CINEMACON news. Alright, like I said, today we're going to be talking about CINEMACON, and CINEMACON is one of those panels where it is essentially a Comic-Con, but for movie theater owners. These big studios from around the world go and pitch their biggest projects to these big theater owners, and they essentially do this to use and increase their stock around the world. And so a bunch of these theaters and studios just combine and have a conversation about their biggest projects that are coming out in the next year. And realistically, we don't get to see all the information they leak. However, most of it is on Twitter if you go looking for it, and so I'm gonna have a huge update for you as the week goes on, hopefully. If not, I'm gonna have a big one recap video at the end of the week for you, because there's gonna be a lot of news that drops. So you might be interested to follow this yourself, just in case I'm not in on all of it and I don't get my videos out. And so I actually have a schedule for you guys right here that I would love for you guys to follow if you're completely interested in. And they also have this online if that's easier as well. But here is the schedule that they are going to follow for CINEMACON. Alright, so the first one is Sony Pictures, and it's actually going to be taking place at 6:30 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. on March 31st. I believe that these are Pacific times, not Eastern times. I'm actually in the Eastern time zone, so this will be much later, but this is for Pacific time. And if I'm wrong about that, just know that the Eastern time will be getting earlier than what we expected. So Sony Pictures, again, at 6:30 for the Pacific times. There's that on March 31st. The next day is actually April 1st, and we're going to get a Lionsgate panel, and that's going to be at 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. That's about 2.5 hours, and so that one will be fun. Hopefully we get some news about Saw 11. I hope so, but we probably won't. The next one that we got is actually Warner Brothers, and that is actually at 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., and that's on April 1st as well. Following up with that, we got Angel Studios up at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It looks like they only have an hour, so I'm not expecting much, but they do have a spot there as well. Universal Studios has theirs at 3:45 to 5:30 p.m. on April 2nd. Again, this is all Pacific time. Amazon and MGM. Amazon is actually the first streaming service that is actually attending CINEMACON, so maybe they're going to be talking about the movies they're releasing in theaters. But Amazon Prime is a big just streaming service for films, so I'm surprised they're even going to be there in the first place. But they actually have a panel up at 8:15 p.m. to 10 p.m. on April 2nd. And then closing us out for the week, we got Paramount up at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on April 3rd, as well as Disney at 2:30 p.m. through 4:30 p.m. on April 3rd. So we got 2 hours for a Disney panel, which hopefully they announce more Marvel stuff, or just in general an update on the Blade project, because we have a lot of information on that we'll get into in the back half. But there's just a lot of these projects that we can actually hear for the first time. They talk about so many different projects here. We already got these first look images at Nobody 2, Wicked. We got one for a movie called Soulmate, maybe Him, which is a new horror football film, The Black Phone 2, Five Nights at Freddy's, and so much more. So I'm going to try to give you all the coverage I can, again, throughout the week. But just in case you wanted to follow it along by yourself, there you go. You can stay up to date by your own. You can keep yourself accountable now. But if you go on Twitter and just look up a bunch of these like film handles, or if you look up Caleb Cadwell on Twitter, I'm on there. And what I'll try to be doing is just reposting as much movie news as I can. So go ahead, follow me on there, and I will try to give you as much information as you can that's up to date. So there you go. All right, so we did get a couple of first look images. We are moving into the actual first topic today, and this is for Red Sonja. Now, I don't really know anything about Red Sonja in the first place. However, this character was originally a Marvel Comics character until their distribution rights switched over to a different comic book company. And so she ended up teaming up with Spider-Man at one point, and Conan the Barbarian, which is also from the Marvel Universe. And so there's a lot of cool things with Red Sonja. She is basically, if you guys don't know much about her, again, I had to look this all up as well, but she is a swords master, and then she knows some sorcery. And so she's just a very well-talented person. And she's also had 2 movies in the past that just have not gone well, apparently. Again, I looked this all up just so I could inform you guys about this. But we did get our first look image, and as you can see, this is a reboot starring Matilda Lutz leading in the main role. She hasn't really done anything really interesting since 2017, The Ring. That's like the one thing that she's been known for. And this movie's also being directed by MJ Bassnett, and so she really hasn't done anything notable as well. And honestly, I'm like, this looks interesting. And so I go and look at with the first look image. I'm thinking, when are they going to release this? Because we got the first look image. There is no official release date for this movie just yet, which is kind of concerning. However, I don't think we have that many Red Sonja fans that will even care. So, if you're a Red Sonja fan, please show me the love in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you find appealing about that character, and then any more information about the character itself, because I want to know why you enjoy it, as well as if you're even interested in this new reboot, even though the past ones have failed. So give me that point of reference for you guys. Are you guys Red Sonja fans, or do you not care? Like, I really don't care. All right, another project that we got first look images for, and if you remember last week, I was talking about the new Daredevil Born Again suit. He was dressed in all black, and he got his new Daredevil logo on his shirt. And so we really got the grainy photos that were just in the background, nothing crazy, nothing special. And so I was saying, well, I like the black vibe, but I just don't know if I'll like the suit at all. And then we get these first look images of him in this new suit, and it is the black suit with the logo. I love it. I think that's one of the coolest costumes we've gotten. I know most people won't be happy that he's ditching the red for a little bit, but if you look at the costume closely, it looks like the costume was spray painted over with, and I honestly, I don't like that if it is, it's spray painted over with, just because he goes to professional, like, custom suit makers in the whole universe, like, that's been established in She-Hulk. So, timeline-wise, I'm like, meh. But the cool idea about this suit itself, and this is kind of my theory about the suit, is that we're gonna start this new season with the black suit. And if you see, again, there is red paint on the suit, and it looks like the more the season progresses, maybe the black of the suit actually starts coming off and we get the official red Daredevil suit. I think that'd be super dope. It's kind of like the Invincible logo. If you guys have watched the Invincible show, where each title card it starts chipping away at the paint or switching the color slightly. I think that's a great idea if they go with it. However, I might just be stupid and might be fan theorizing everything right here. So let me know, do you think this would be a cool idea where the suit starts chipping away to where we get the actual red suit, or do you think I'm just being dumb and I should just stop? All right, so another couple images that we did get released this past week was for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. The Odyssey is one of those films that I'm really looking forward to. I think Christopher Nolan will do a great job. And every time we talk about this film, it's always a leak for Tom Holland's character, it feels like. Today's no other than that. We got more leaks of his character in another costume. The first one was on a boat. The second one, we got him in battle armor. So this first photo, it looks really cool. I think it's really basic, but it portrays him well. The second one I feel like is going to be a meme photo. I mean, just look at that grin, like. But anyways, that I think is just kind of funny. They caught him in a bad light, poor dude. But what are your thoughts on these new images for Tom Holland's character? All right, for those of you that do know, or some of you that don't, Peacemaker is one of my favorite shows of all time. I actually bought the DVD because I like it so much. Now, I understand I am overrating it that badly. I find it a guilty pleasure. Every time I go back and rewatch it, I find another part of it to love with either the jokes or just the character dynamics. I always find some humor with it, and even though I don't rewatch many shows or movies itself nowadays, this is one I'll turn on just for the fun of it every once in a while. So I think I've seen the whole season about like 6 times now, which is absolutely insane for me. And I even bought the Funko bobblehead for him because I just love the character so much. So Peacemaker is one of those guilty pleasure shows for me. It's not great, I know that, but it is one of my favorite shows that I always go back to just for the fun of it. And so we got some new news for season 2 of Peacemaker, and this is actually an interesting piece of news that is not also that interesting, but stay with me here. Here we go with the Peacemaker news. All right, so it looks like we got a new casting confirmed for Peacemaker, and this is actually the character for White Rabbit. Now, I didn't know who this was at all, and so again, I did some deep dive because I'm learning for the first time as well as you guys. And so White Rabbit looks to be a person in the comic books that actually can duplicate themselves and has super speed. And she kind of dresses up as a rabbit, and that's her whole shtick. But the crazy thing is that she is actually a part of the Wonderland gang. That's what their name is. So like the Mad Hatter from the Batman books, she's a part of that team with them. And so I think that's really interesting that we're getting more Batman villains in this universe, that we're fleshing out these characters and this world with some unique characters that we would never heard of. But these are also Batman's characters. And so maybe we'll get something more about Batman here in this season. I don't know. But this character is being played by Brett Noel. I haven't seen anything with her in it, but she looks close enough to the character, and so I'm all fine with it. What are your thoughts about for these Peacemaker news with Batman villains? I think that's interesting. Maybe they're going to make her more of a Peacemaker villain from now on in the books as well. But there you go, Peacemaker news. Staying on the topic for shows, I'm actually watching currently Paradise. This is a new show on Hulu, and it got a lot of great reviews. Now, for someone that like watches a bunch of shows and movies, it can kind of be predictive, and so there's a lot of things that I keep guessing. I have about 2 more episodes left to go. However, we did get confirmation that season 2 is being filmed right now, and so it'll be really interesting to see what they do with the second season, if they can kind of play off of what they're setting up in this ending of the first season. Again, I can kind of guess where it's going. I don't know the full ending of it, but I'm hoping this pays off because the first season was received so well by a lot of people, and it kept a lot of people on their toes. So if you're looking for a new show and you have Hulu, Paradise might be the one to start because they're doing a second season. Another big show that is getting more casting announcements this week is actually Harry Potter. Of course, you can see this by the wand, but Harry Potter is getting more casting announcements as time goes on. Now, we aren't getting the main 3 characters. However, we are getting more of the bigger people at this point. We already got Dumbledore casted. We already got Snape and McGonagall on the way. And so we got a new actor that is in talks for the role of Hagrid. Now, I love the Wizarding World. I think that it's done a really good job. And honestly, again, I was not a huge fan of the casting of Dumbledore as well as the McGonagall and the Snape. However, it is just what I grew up with. So to me, the original movies are more iconic. And I feel like anyone's going to be mad about the casting that they do at this point on. There's never going to be a win-win situation. So I say that we wait to see what the show actually gives us before we actually make judgment calls. And so with that, we actually got a new casting update, again, for the role of Hagrid, and this is about Nick Frost. Nick Frost is currently in the talks to do the role of Hagrid, and honestly, I think that's a great casting. There's really no one else that I could actually see pulling off the brute, but also the caring nature of Hagrid, the character himself. And so I'm all for this whole idea of Nick Frost playing Hagrid. Now, for those of you who do not know Nick Frost, he was actually starring in the Shaun of Dead films as well as Hot Fuzz and so much more. But he's always just done basically comedy, so it'll be interesting to see him do this more sweet and caring role. However, I think this is like the first true casting that I'm like, please, yes, this is solid. So let me know your thoughts on Nick Frost potentially playing Hagrid, and who else you would like to see in any of the other roles. Like, who is your main fan cast for playing Harry Potter right now? That would be an interesting discussion down in the comments below. Alright, the next show that we actually got information for this week was actually Gen V. This is the Boys spinoff show where it's basically Sky High in the Boys universe. And honestly, this had a tragic story behind it where one of the main characters of the show ended up passing away in a tragic accident between the filming of the first and second season. And they actually just wrapped the second season, and so they did give us information that a trailer for the second season is coming out sooner than what we think, as well as a release date. This one is something that'll be really interesting for fans just to see in the trailer, to see where these characters are kind of going to be taken, especially because The Boys Season 5 is ending, and so maybe they'll potentially do more seasons after the main Boys series, or maybe this will be it. So there's a lot to think about when we actually hear about Gen V, but what are your thoughts on this whole show in itself? Alright, moving on to one of my favorite topics of the week, we actually got Scooby-Doo, the live-action series. And so this was announced to be a Netflix show. We actually got 8 episodes coming out for us. They're working on it right now. However, there are some bad news with this whole show itself. And one of those being is that the people that are working on this show are actually part of the CW team. So they're coming over from the CW, and they did projects such as Riverdale, as well as basically all the Arrowverse. And so they're actually coming back to make this show. And so that kind of tells you where this whole show is going in the first place, how dark and gritty the vibe will be, which is honestly one of the good things. I've always honestly wanted a darker version of the Scooby-Doo universe or the story. I think it's a great idea, especially like, honestly, I wouldn't pitch it this way, but a Riverdale-esque version of the Scooby-Doo world, I think is pretty cool. And so we actually got a synopsis with this as well that's getting a lot of either hate or love depending on how you look at it, and I'll talk about my opinions right after we read it. And so here we go. During their final summer at camp, old friends Shaggy and Daphne get embroiled in a haunting mystery surrounding a lonely, lost Great Dane puppy that may have been a witness to a supernatural murderer. Together with the pragmatic and scientific townie Velma and the strange but ever so handsome new kid Freddy, they set out to solve the case that is pulling each of them in a creepy nightmare that threatens to expose all of their secrets. So that was what we got for the information for this whole Scooby-Doo show. And it is going to be an origin story, it sounds like. Now, the whole gang itself is getting a lot of heat because it looks like not all of them actually know each other, as well as Shaggy and Scooby don't know each other as well. I'm actually down to see more of this origin story and see what the actual definitive origin story for these characters are. That's never actually really delved into the shows themselves, and so I'm A-okay with this, especially because it looks like we're getting new character dynamics as well. Like, Shaggy and Daphne don't always talk to each other in these shows, as well as Velma and Fred. Now, there are some circumstances where they do, but it's nothing like too crazy. It's usually Shaggy, Scooby, Velma, Daphne, and Fred. So these new dynamics will be super interesting, and I'm glad they're doing something different. The thing I would really want them to do, and this is not a lie, one of my other favorite Scooby-Doo shows is actually the Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. I think that show does a very good job of having one central main story, but also doing the anthology route. So each episode delegates a super monster, but each episode, when they solve the mystery, it also connects to the bigger grand story. And honestly, if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching that one. It's one of my favorite shows that I watched when growing up. And I think if they went that route, that would be dope. And the fact that we're actually getting a real murder this time, or a supernatural murder, but murder nonetheless. They could have gone any other route, like tax invasion or something like that, but we got murder. So I'm excited for it. Let me know your thoughts on the new Scooby-Doo live action series. Are you excited for it, or are you disappointed because the Riverdale people are doing it? And since we're talking about murdering, one of the things that we did get confirmation about was actually I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it looks like the plot synopsis for this film is going to feature the new cast actually murdering someone on their way back from a party, and they go to the old cast and they ask them how to get away with murder. That is the new premise itself, so I think that's great. I think that's funny. However, like story-wise, that's no. But we did get a new poster, and there it is for you. So, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I don't know. I'm not really excited for it, but if you are, I'm happy for you. If you like horror movies, but you do not like slashers, I got a new one for you, and this is actually Annabelle. So, Annabelle is one of those classic doll killer things, but however, the doll doesn't actually move. It's more of like a demonic possession around it. And honestly, I watched all of the Conjuring films and the Annabelle films back to back, and I don't think they're anything that special. The first two Conjuring films, I was like, okay. The Annabelle films, I actually don't hate as many people do, but I don't think they're anything like great. Like, I'll watch them, but it's nothing special. And so they are talking about doing another one after The Conjuring, The Last Rites. This is the final Conjuring movie in the franchise. They're ending the Conjuring stuff right there and then. However, they're waiting to see how this new one does before they actually do another spin-off of Annabelle or another movie for Annabelle. So, are you interested in them doing another Annabelle movie, or do you think we can just kind of leave it right where it is? Another film that is very early in development from Disney, actually, is the Maleficent 3 movie. We did get Maleficent 1 and Maleficent 2. I've seen the first one. The second one I never really got through, but we are getting a third one. Again, there is not much about this project that is known. However, the main writer for 1 and 2 is returning, and so are you excited for potential Maleficent 3? Legends of Zelda is one of those games I never really got into. I played about 4 or 5 hours. I know some of the lore, like the main guy is actually Ganon, that's like the main villain, and then Link is actually the character's name, but I could not tell you like all the deep dive of the Legends of Zelda lore. But we are getting a movie, and this is by director Wes Ball. He actually is the one that did the Maze Runner movies as well as the Planet of the Apes films, like the brand new one, not the ones by Matt Reeves. But I actually am excited for this film. Again, I could never get into the games. I think it was more of like the gameplay and the style of the games. However, the story I didn't hate. I just never got into like the gameplay of the games. So I don't know much about this movie as it is, or the lore as it is, but we are getting the new movie, and we got a release date for it, and it looks like March 26th, 2027. That is the day. And we actually are getting a trilogy of this, or it's actually trying to set up a trilogy. And so if you like the Zelda games, maybe you're really interested in this movie. I would like to hear more like Link lore down in the comments below. Tell me everything you know about Link, because I want to know as much about this character as you guys do. So put in the comments below, what is Link, and like, is there a whole lore that I need to know about while I'm gonna go watch this movie? Alright, the second most anticipated film of the MCU for me this year was actually the Thunderbolts. Honestly, that's as good a position as you can be, essentially, because Fantastic Four is number 1, always, it always was, it always will be. Thunderbolts was 2 because I was not really excited for Captain America: A Brave New World at all, and so I was honestly way more excited for Thunderbolts than I was for Captain America. And we did get an official runtime for this movie, and it looks like it's going to be taking place around 2 hours and 6 minutes. So 2 hours, I'm glad they are going a full longer length than actually doing an hour and a half or an hour 45. Hopefully we get more information leading up to Doomsday, and that they actually help us develop these characters to get them to that position where they will be seen in Doomsday. I've seen a lot of people theorizing that a lot of these characters are going to be getting killed off at the very beginning of the new Avengers film, and that this new Thunderbolts movie, if we get a second one, it'll be a new roster. But honestly, I'm down to see what they do. So there we go. Thunderbolts, are you excited that it's actually 2 hours now? All right, I guess continuing on with the MCU news, Black Panther 3 is getting announced, and it looks like from a scooper known as Daniel RPK. He's like one of the most reliable scoopers out there right now. He actually has a bunch of ties in Hollywood, so he might not be always correct, but most of the time he is. And when he's not always correct, I'm actually telling you guys to take everything I say with a grain of salt at this one time, because it looks like he is saying that this new Black Panther film will release on February 2028. So we got a couple more years until we see a new Black Panther film. This will take place after Secret Wars, which makes sense. But we are getting a new Black Panther film, and it looks like from Ryan Coogler himself, this is the director of the first two Black Panther films, that Denzel Washington has not officially signed on, but he will be a part of the movie as long as Denzel wants to be a part of the movie. So there you go. Denzel Washington will be basically confirmed in the Black Panther 3 movie. Are you excited about Denzel taking on this role? All right, moving on to the biggest topic of the week. It has to be actually Avengers Doomsday. I mean, they made us watch 5 hours of them just moving chairs back and forth, and honestly, I hated every moment of it, but dang, they got me. They got me good. So I watched the full 5 hours right when it turned on, and I didn't shut it off until Robert Downey Jr. appeared on screen and then left. And so we did get a huge casting announcement for the Avengers Doomsday. So here is the roster we officially have for the film. All right, so Chris Hemsworth is set to return as Thor. Vanessa Kirby is returning as Invisible Woman. Anthony Mackie as Captain America. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. Letitia Wright as the Black Panther. Shuri also. And then Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. We also got Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent. Tinoch Huerta Mija, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. If I'm not, I completely apologize. But he's coming back as Namor. And then we got The Thing, which is Ebon Moss. And then Simu Liu is coming back as Shang-Chi. Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Louis Pullman as Sentry. Danny Ramirez as the new Falcon. Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch. David Harbour is coming back as Red Guardian. Winston Duke, M'Baku is back. Hannah John Kamen is back as Ghost. Tom Hiddleston, one of my most surprised people that actually got revealed. He's coming back as Loki. We got Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Ian McKellen as Magneto. Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. Rebecca Romijn as Mystique. James Marsden as Cyclops. Channing Tatum as Gambit. We got Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. And then finally, Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. So a lot of us were asking, where is Spider-Man? Where is Doctor Strange? Where is Captain Marvel in this whole list? But it looks like that is actually not the full confirmed list. RDJ went on Twitter and Instagram and talking back and forth with Marvel for a little bit, and then they actually led to the answer that this is actually not the full list. So we may actually get more information as we get closer to Doomsday. It could even come out this next panel for Disney, for all we know. Like, they could just be doing another 2 hours of chair announcements at this new Disney panel this week for CINEMACON. We don't know, but we are getting more people in the cast. They just haven't announced them yet. So I'm assuming Doctor Strange will be there. I'm assuming Captain Marvel will be there. Monica Rambeau, so much more people. So let me know who you would like to see that was not announced in the film already. Since we talked about Avengers Doomsday, the only topic that can actually top that from the MCU perspective is actually the remake of Blade. Now, Blade is one of those characters that have been stuck in development for years, and it feels like for like centuries now at this point, we just have not heard anything about Blade other than like complete setbacks for the project. And so we got some really good positive news. However, we also got some very bad negative news. And so neither one has been officially confirmed yet by Marvel. So take each of these with a grain of salt. But we did get some more information on Blade. So here's the first part. It looks like Chad Stahelski, who actually did the John Wick films, he directed the John Wick films, was actually tapped to direct this new film for Blade, which would be like mind-blowing. Like, I think this would be really good and really well done if we got Chad Stahelski directing this new Blade film. However, there are complete different sides of the story where they actually say that Blade is just put on hold indefinitely and shelved. So there's one saying that we got a really good director on the movie now, and then there's one saying that the movie is officially basically canceled at this point. And so I don't really know which one to believe. You guys can either take either or piece of information that I give you and say that's fact, because right now that's all we know. But that's like the most recent update for Blade, and unfortunately right now I feel like just because the project's been so cursed that we're actually not gonna get anything new with it for what it feels like for a while. Now, a lot of people are speculating that instead of doing this, they're just gonna be focusing on Midnight Suns instead, which is a team-up movie with like Moon Knight and Ghost Rider and all that. And I'd like to see that, but honestly, I think that we just need to put him in the MCU in some way at this point. And if they can't do it in his own movie, might as well be doing a team-up movie. Alright, so if you've watched any of my previous videos, you guys know that I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, and so I've been waiting for more news on this Avatar, like the Aang movie, which is basically taking place 20 years after Aang is in the actual legit show. And so he's older now and he's an adult, and I am super excited to see what they actually come up with for the idea of this film. And it looks like we got a new casting update for the film itself. And this one is pretty big for like me as a nerd. It looks like Steven Yeun is being cast in the new Avatar film, and that is just a complete win to me. If you guys don't know who Steven Yeun is, he's basically Glenn from The Walking Dead, or the Invincible character, and I think this is, honestly, it's just a huge win. There's no way to sugarcoat it. If you guys like Invincible and you guys have seen Avatar, you guys will know what this will do for the franchise. But there you go. Are you excited about this new news that Steven Yeun is joining the cast? If you like Glenn Powell and you're interested to see what he does next, he did just get done with his newest film called The Running Man. This film does release this November, and it's basically a dystopian world where he's getting hunted down for a game show, and he has to survive all these killers that are sent after him. I think it's a great premise. They've already also done one in the past, and it worked well enough. I think the main person in the original one was actually Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so them rebooting this, I'm game for it. But it did finish filming, so there you go if you're interested in that news. We did get interesting information for the Leprechaun. It's one of those horror franchises I've actually never seen, but they did just lose their director. This movie has been stuck in development for about 3 to 4 years now, and they lost their director now. So it looks like we're not getting another Leprechaun movie for a while. So if you're a big Leprechaun fan, I am sorry for you. I would say the craziest news for me for the day was actually about Jumanji. This is Jumanji 3 or 4, depending on how you look at it. If you're taking the original one as the first one, then this would be 4. But if you're taking the new trilogy as just its own thing, it would be 3. However, it does look like Jack Black said he will not return for this new Jumanji film, which is honestly just insane to me. I don't know why he wouldn't return. I feel like there's so much that you could do with this character, especially because they end the second movie, or the third movie, where the game is now coming back to the real world, and all these characters that we've known from the games are coming back to meet the actual kids. And at this point, I mean, they're full adults now, but like, why would he not return? This is the franchise. They have one more movie left, but it looks like he won't return. So do you think that they are actually going to go the same route with what they had planned for the next film? Do you think that Jack Black actually will return, or do you think that they should just cancel this whole franchise now, since they waited this long and it's also not returning with the actual cast? The next segment we have to talk about is actually Superman, and I actually was not going to talk about this just because it hasn't been officially released yet. However, this is movie news, and I actually want you guys to be like in the know for everything. So if you don't want to hear any like spoiler about Superman, I'm not going to be touching on any plot points or anything, but this does just give you an idea of who is actually playing Jor-El, which is Superman's dad in the new film. And so if you are wanting to skip, go ahead and skip over to the next section, because we're going to be talking about Superman. Alright, like I said, this is spoiler news for the new movie. I wasn't going to be talking about it, but it was leaked, and it looks like Bradley Cooper will be playing Jor-El, Superman's dad, in the new franchise, the new movies. And honestly, I think that's a perfect casting. They look close enough to each other, and I think Bradley Cooper does a great job, especially when working with James Gunn. I know they're friends, but I'm so down to see this, and especially because they say he's in the film just a little bit, but I think it's a good casting for Jor-El. And so what are your thoughts about Bradley Cooper playing Superman's dad? I take everything back. The most surprising discussion that we're going to have today is actually about the Minecraft movie, because we got new reviews for the movie out now. And so these are what the early reviews are saying about the film. In all honesty, it is genuinely a stupidly hilarious adaptation of the sandbox video game that is Minecraft. It's a film that explores how far imagination can go, and it feels like the perfect film for families to watch over the holiday. Jack Black has never felt more like Jack Black than his portrayal of Steve. Jason Momoa, Sebastian Hansen, and Danielle Brooks help craft this film and bring it together. Unfortunately, Jennifer Coolidge and Emma Myers feel wasted in comparison with their story arcs. Are the visuals the greatest? No. Is this an insanely fun time at the cinemas? Yes. And it keeps going on like this. There's a lot of like, hey, this movie is dumb, but you're gonna have fun with it. So if you're a big Minecraft fan, you're looking forward to this memeable movie, it looks like you're gonna have a fun time no matter what. Now, if you're expecting the best movie ever, just don't go. But if you're looking to have fun, apparently that's what this film is for. So there is that news for you. All right, so that was all the movie news we have going on this past week. This is all the information before CINEMACON starts tomorrow. And so here you go. That is all the news, and I can't wait to talk more about movies with you guys. Make sure if you stayed this long to go ahead and click that subscribe button, as well as like the video. Liking this video will help me promote my content to other people, and then commenting down below. Again, I created this channel to have conversations with you guys, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about everything that we just talked about today, as well as like why you like something, why you're not a fan of it. Any questions you guys have for me, I'll answer it all, so please list it down in the comments below. And then if you go ahead and click the subscribe button over here and watch another video of mine, that would also greatly help me out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys stay safe out there.